Morgan is back and she says, delete the word busy from your vocabulary. Don't say it anymore. She says we have the power to choose a life of fullness and put aside things that overwhelm us and make us busy. Welcome back, professional organizer Morgan TYREE, author of the new book, Take Back Your Time. Hey, Morgan.
Hi.
So why do we need to delete the word busy?
Well, I just think it's become a bit of a buzzword, and it almost has this implication that it's happened to us. And I just want to encourage people to remember that we get a choice with our schedule and our commitments. I say in my book that time management's nickname is choices. So if you feel busy, I just encourage people to just take a step back and ask themselves why they're busy, why their schedule looks the way it does.
Do you feel like the word busy has also almost become like a status symbol? Like when people ask you, hey, how are you doing? Oh, I'm busy. It's like almost to make yourself feel important.
Exactly. I feel like it almost just kind of becomes this filler word or this kind of almost excuse maybe. And I feel like rather than us recognizing that our time is really an opportunity we have and that we get to choose how we use it rather than just act like it's happening to us, and I don't want us to fall into that for sure.
So you say the response needs to be seek a sense of harmony in your schedule. How do you do that?
So I think it's just being really self-aware as far as what you're capable of adding to your schedule and even looking at your entire family or your household as far as what your kind of capacity is as an individual or as a family and saying, what does harmony look like for us or for me? And knowing, again, going back to the season of life, knowing what you're being called to do. I think we kind of know when we have that sense of peace in our life. And I'm not saying we're going to have this day in and day out. I mentioned in the book that I feel like there's days that I have a day number one where like things are clicking along and I'm feeling like, my planning and things are happening. And then I have a day number two where nothing goes as planned, and I think no matter how much we try, we'll still have some of both days, and so we're not going to always have harmony, but if we're intentional and if we're careful with our yeses and nos, we can have more harmony and less hustle.
Yeah. You also talked about this earlier in the week, but be discerning about the requests and invitations that come your way and I love this, fill your cup with only those commitments that provide you with meaning and purpose.
Yes.
So important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one thing I've learned personally is to slow down a little bit because I think sometimes we're presented with opportunities or whatever it might be, and we sometimes feel like we have to respond maybe immediately or we're just caught up in the moment. And I think sometimes slowing down and waiting to respond can be really beneficial because mulling something over and looking at it from some different angles or talking it through with someone else or praying it over can really be helpful in really deciding, is it the right time to take that commitment on or whatever it might be, because we need to make sure that it fits with everything else we're doing in our life or in our schedule.
Yeah. Okay, this one I feel like they might be conflicting, but you're going to explain this to me. You talk about having margins in your life, but also being flexible in your life. Explain the two. How can you do both?
Okay, so margin, I think what we tend to do is we can tend to think that things are going to they're going to take less time than they really will. And like, for example, the other day I took my daughter to the doctor and in my mind, I'm like, oh, this will just take an hour. Well, it ended up being like 2 hours by the time, the waiting room, and then we had to go get a prescription and then it was just la, 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 la. And it's like, if I would have just built in another hour, I just wouldn't have had that sense of frustration, and so building in margin is helpful. And then I think the flexibility piece is that there's just things that don't go as planned, and so we can, again, kind of going back to that day number one or day number two, I can do everything in my power or I can plan and strategize something. Well, then someone can get sick or someone can forget something or fill in the blank. Life happens, right? And so again, if I provide some margin around my planning, it's going to allow me to be more flexible And so when something goes longer or something happens, I'm not scrambling to make up for that,
That totally
you know.
makes sense. That totally makes sense.
Mhm.
Okay, and the last one, knowing the times of day you are most effective. I must say that I don't fully wake up until about 10:30 a.m., but due to my job, I have to be awake a lot earlier than that, and due to the fact that I'm a mother and I have to take care of children, I do have to be alert. But I think that's such an important part, is knowing the times that you're most effective.
Yeah, and this kind of goes back to the time zones too, as much as possible. And it's not going to always be the case, but if you can, if for example you have some really focused tasks to work on, it's ideal if you can maybe schedule those at a time when you feel the most alert or when you can be at your highest productivity level. Just when not everyone is an early bird. Maybe you're a night owl. Just knowing that about yourself can be really helpful in setting up your time ultimately for you.
Oh, I've so loved these segments. Thank you so much, Morgan. Again, the name of the book is Take Back Your Time. Identify your priorities, decrease stress, and increase productivity. Who doesn't want that in their lives? Thanks again, Morgan. Stay with us. We'll be right back.